Hello, everyone. I'm Lisa Ann Santon, and I'm here with my colleague, Kim Revita. And originally, we put this little presentation together for Women's Business League, which is a platform and networking space for women, primarily in Massachusetts, but now growing across the USA. And we're so pleased that Girls Night Live is going to let us present it here today as well. We will be making this available to anyone who would like it, and you'll see contact information for both Kim and myself pop up during our time together, and reach out if you'd like to have a copy of the content here. We will share that with you. So we'll go to the next slide so you can see our faces, even though you can see us here. So Kim Revita is our coach and mindset expert, and I'm the wardrobe expert. And we worked together again to combine and put this content with a framework. So it's, I think, a nice little package. And if we pop onto the next slide, I'll just show you that some of the things I do are ethical fashion advocacy. I call myself a wardrobe magician because when I get inside women's closets, I really try to reuse everything that they own and help them kind of shuffle the deck, if you will. I have a podcast that I created called The Wardrobe Muse, which is another fun way to engage with this information. And I'm trying to get out there and transform as many closets as I can across the USA. So I do a lot of remote work as well. And I'm going to let Kim give you her 2-second introduction as a coach.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Lisa. Lisa is a true magician inside and out, and I am thrilled to be here with her today to be able to present this information to you. I am a business coach and consultant and information integrator, which means I help you take all the information that's being flung at you and implement it in a way that fits you in your life and your business. I do a lot of business coaching, prosperity mentor, and mindset master. And, life is all about the mindset. So we are here today to give you some mindset tips and some actual practical tips on moving into the virtual world and when we move into the big world that we're so used to being in. I don't know if anybody has seen Lisa and I have joked about this, the commercial for, I think it's TJ Maxx, and the woman is putting on pants and she's kind of pulling and tugging and bending. And I think the tagline is, yeah, you remember those. So hopefully you'll take some really good pieces of information away today to show up in the world in the way that you choose to show up. So if we want to go to the next slide, we want to talk about a personal image. And what is a personal image? So as you can see, it's how people perceive you. It's the way you look, dress, communicate, behave, all of that. And believe it or not, and we might not like it, but people look at us and make an impression, a judgment, a guess, whether we like it or not. It's the first impression that we put out there. So we want to make sure we're doing our very best to show up in the world the way we want to show up. So let's go to the next slide and talk about what is an impression. And this is my 3-year-old Bernese Mountain Dog, Bruin. And he is kind of tipping his head and saying, well, what is an impression? So just take a quick look at that photo and draw up your own impression. And I'll talk a little bit about it in a moment. But I went out to the world to gain the actual definition of what an impression is, because I could give you my rendition, Lisa could give you her rendition, you could have your own rendition. But really what it is an idea, feeling, or opinion about something or someone, especially one formed without conscious thought or on the basis of little evidence. So as you look at this photo, at first glance, he looks really cute, right? His head is tipped to the side. And that might be the first impression. But some of you may have picked up on the leash that's a little bit blurred in the hand, and that is my hand. So I could have been pulling him, and maybe I was, I'm not sure when this picture was taken, what exactly I was doing. And he could be like, yeah, his neck is being turned. Right? So there's 2 ways of looking at it, and maybe more. So when you look at your impression that you're putting out into the world, is it the one that you want. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in the next slide. We're going to see that. I have notes because I can't remember everything in my head. So I want to make sure I'm clear on what I'm talking about. So here it is. And I'm going to let this sink in for a minute as you read this. 8 seconds or less. You have 8 seconds or less for someone to visually size you up. And again, you want to make sure you are making that lasting impression. Excuse me. Are you making the impression that you want? So, when I work with my business clients, a lot of them say, well, I don't know, like, what are they thinking? I have no idea. Well, what do you want them to think is one of my questions, especially when it comes to marketing or showing up in the world. What do you want the world to be thinking about you? We have control, a little bit of it, on what other people think. So our next slide is going to talk about impressions and why they matter. And I think you probably know why impressions matter. So why do you want to think about your personal image? Well, as we do go out into the world, I don't know about you, but you might be used to wearing slippers or sweatpants or comfy clothes or tattered clothes. And I just went out the other day to a seminar and I was like, oh my God, what am I wearing? I'm not going to wear my regular everyday jeans, right? I wanted to make a good impression. And actually, I'm out of practice getting out of the house. So impressions matter. And your personal image is what can make people gravitate to you. It's an extension of yourself, right? Your impression is an extension of yourself. So if you are going out looking for, just even going out, right, looking for dinner or something, but if you're really going out looking for a job or clients or to a meeting, what's that impression that you want for yourself? And when we talk virtual, you're only seeing, right? You're only seeing us in a box. So I could have my pajamas on. I could have my slippers on. I will be fully transparent because that's how I like to roll. I do not. I have my nice jeans on because I am a jeans person, and I have shoes on. Prior to sitting here in front of this presentation, I did have my flip-flops on. But even though you can't see my feet, the impression I wanted to portray is one of professional. I wanted to appear approachable. Again, you can't see my feet and I know that, but it's the feeling that comes from within. So thinking about the mindset starts really from, yes, pun intended, bottom up, right? And a lot of our success happens in between these ears, right? Right in our heads and what we think. So when you think about an extension of yourself personally, in business, whether you are marketing, and guess what? Whether you're marketing for your business or a corporation or a company or looking for a job, you're showcasing yourself, your values. What are your values? Those show up really clearly. Your brilliance, right? How are you shining in this world? And if you are a contributor in an organization, you've probably heard this because it's pretty prevalent in business or in corporations. Don't dress for the job you have, dress for the job that you want. So we can go ahead to the next slide and we're going to do a fun exercise. So I want you to think about a time when, and this is Bruin as a puppy, he's 9 weeks old, and he was not impressed with us at all because he wanted to jump off a ledge. And at 9 weeks, you do not let a puppy jump off a ledge because they could get hurt. So he was like, I'm not impressed with you people at all. So if you're game, close your eyes, take a breath, and think about a time when you met someone that left you with a bad taste in your mouth. Whether it was their clothing, their behavior, whatever it was, something they said, something they did. And just maybe make a note of that feeling that you had or the thought that you had. And then go ahead to the next slide. And, in the Bernese Mountain Dog world, you cannot just have one Bernese Mountain Dog. You have to have more than one. They're like chips. So this is Blades, our other 9-week-old puppy, and he's going to be 2. So they're not, we didn't get them at the same time. And he's extremely happy because he has a great impression of his life right now. He was playing with his siblings. He had a great day. He was in such a fun place. You can see he's just happy. His eyes are bright. He doesn't have that face on. And so I want you to think about a time when somebody made a great impression on you. Whether it be they walked into a room and they were dressed to the nines and you thought, whoa, or a presenter, a friend, it doesn't matter. But I want you to think about a time when you were just wowed by someone's impression. Again, their behavior, their actions, what they said, what they wore, maybe perfume, maybe no perfume. And then just go ahead and write that down. Just a feeling or a thought. And then I want you to write under that, if you wrote anything down, which one do you think would be most impactful? Is it the one of the, you're not making a great impression on me? Or is it, yes, you're making such an impression on me? And which one, which type of energy would you like to have? How would you like to show up? Virtual or in person? Because we are going to be going out in person, even though we're virtual still. So I'll give you a moment just to make a note, and then we can switch to the next slide. And now I want you to imagine grabbing the attention of your audience when you show up in a virtual meeting, or you can even think about when you show up in the world, showing your value in a poised and confident way. So if we're talking business or a job interview, or just a meeting, maybe you have children and you're going to school to have a meeting with the teacher or the principal. If you're, doing volunteer work and you're looking to do fundraising, where do you show up and how can you show up? And Lisa's going to help you a lot with that, in showing up with your value in your poised and confident way. So you feel really good, because it's energy. And when you feel really good things tend to happen. When things go wrong, it's like a boulder going downhill. It just, right? It all happens all at once. And then also being authentic to yourself while you engage with other professionals, with others in a professional environment. And I say professional environment because, we presented this to a networking group, but it is in any environment. So just imagine, so looking back to think of a time when you weren't impressed with somebody, or maybe you were the one who showed up and you weren't impressive, right? We've all been there. And then a time that you were really impressed, or even you showed up and you were really impressed with yourself and you felt really great about yourself. And then think about, go ahead and turn to the next slide, and think about a time perhaps while we've been in this virtual world, when you showed up on a virtual meeting, maybe you were rushed and feeling, or even maybe looking harried. I've been on calls when that's happened, not to me, but to others, and it's very distracting. And yes, I've made judgments, and sometimes you can say, okay, this person had a bad day, but sometimes for people, that's the only shot you get. What about making an excuse? Oh, I can't turn my camera on. I didn't put my makeup on, or my house is a mess. And what about, oh, no one cares what I look like? And, where does that come from? Again, that is a mindset. So keep in mind, if you do these things, or when you do these things, you're always making an impression. Is it the one that you want to be making? So we can go ahead and click to the next slide. And we're going to talk a little bit about meeting. We are talking about a meeting, but we're going to talk about the mindset of attending a virtual meeting. So again, Lisa's going to go into a little bit more detail with this. You're going to walk away with some really good things to do and some ideas and foods for thought for yourself. But you want to choose to be intentional and show up in the best possible light before getting on a Zoom meeting. And I do mean pun intended, best possible light, right? The lighting around you, and you're showing up in the way you want to show up. Plan and prepare ahead of time so you can show up as the successful woman that you are. And craft your impression like you crafted your brand if you were in business, or your personal brand, right? How you want to dress, with intention, authenticity, and be memorable. And I'm going to show you how to do that in just one moment. So why don't we go to the next slide? And I want you to think about creating an I am statement. So in coaching, we always look to go forward and we say, I am successful. I am getting closer to my results, my goals. So when we're creating your personal image or your impression, you want to think I am. Intentional is the I, authentic is the A, and memorable. So you stand out and shine in 8 seconds or less. So you could come up with a little phrase that says, I am, and then follow it with what you feel is intentional, authentic, and memorable. So I have one more slide to share with you before Lisa takes over and gives you more information for you to be able to create your I am statement in a really powerful way. You have the power to create your personal image in a way that feels good to you and gives you the confidence to leave your mark in the world. So without further ado, I want you to write down I am ... and then listen to what Lisa has to say, because she is phenomenal and you're going to walk away with some amazing information to create that powerful personal image for yourself. Lisa, over to you.
Thanks, Kim. Well, our next slide really picks up on the ideas and the mindset that Kim has helped frame all this information. In the past, when I've talked about personal image, it feels overwhelming to people. Gaining control of their closet and the assets, the wardrobe that they already own feels like a task. It feels very overwhelming. So Kim and I really worked hard to set up why it's important, kind of the why behind all of this. This is not just a frivolous fashion expedition to spend money. It's really part of your overall success in life. So questions to ask yourself before you show up for a Zoom meeting or GoToMeeting, whatever platform it is, or reemerging out into spaces again that might be safe now because our pandemic world is opening up a bit more. So you can use these things in your Zoom life and use them in your real life. You want to ask yourself the image that you're putting together with how you cut your hair, what makeup you wear, what kind of clothing you select. Is it really what you want to convey about your business? So I use this real life story. Recently, my husband had a health scare and it was pretty significant, and we were going to need to select a surgeon. And I think for most of us in the USA, when we think of a surgeon, we think of someone that's kind of buttoned up a little bit with the white sort of coat on, and they have command of their language when they're explaining to you what they're going to do. And do you want to see that person coming in to speak with you with bedhead and a Hawaiian shirt on? Or do you want to see that more traditional buttoned up version of a physician or a surgeon? So you have to kind of think about, what am I expected to convey in my business and what do I want to convey? And then marrying those two as you make your selections. In the virtual world, you can see I've employed a virtual background. I have a really great office with a beautiful new Benjamin Moore color paint, but I think this is a little more interesting because it does remove, maybe someone doesn't like that color paint. It just gives you a little sense that I work with style. You can see it has like a little bit of clothing hanging. So consider deploying your own virtual background that speaks to what you do for a living, if your technology allows for that. If it doesn't, really tidy up your background. Be intentional about where your setting is in your home office or your space, and really spend some time playing around with that space, making it your own, making it neutral though, so that no one can be really honing in on the bookcase if there's something there that shouldn't be there. So just kind of play with that a little bit, because everything that you're conveying through this small square is saying something about you, and you want it to be making that powerful impact and creating that energy. And of course, your clothing and makeup and hair does speak to that, and that's going to be different for everyone. So again, referencing what industry you're in, what role you're in, what role you wish to have, and that will help you to make your selections. Because really how you're showing up says something about yourself, and it's a narrative you can dictate and control. We'll move on to the next slide, which is kind of a funny one. I think this is the expression that people are having right now. Like, this is just too hard. The whole pandemic, the whole working from home, it felt really hard for people, and you couldn't go out shopping. So if you needed to employ maybe a new top or a ring light, you had to do a lot of that online. That was a little bit difficult. So, there's a big question out there right now about what do people need to make this work for them and make it easier? And it might be a coach like Kim who can help you to work through some of the mindset issues, or it might be someone more tactical like myself that can help you to assemble some great outfits for, I call it top up dressing. Or it might be employing someone like myself to help you get it together for going back to work, either in the fall or, whenever we're really going to re-emerge fully. So the new normal doesn't have to feel like this, but I'm acknowledging that it has been hard and that people do feel like this. And on to the next slide, we're really asking the question, well, how do we grab our audience's attention? This sounds very heady. You have to know who your audience is. So every meeting you're going into on a Zoom room, especially where you can't read body language, you don't have that ability to make that warm connection, you have to do your homework and just get a little bit of an idea about what you're stepping into on a platform and in a Zoom room, and what you might expect that's going to transform you in that arena. The dress code expectation of your industry. I have joked that we have become a culture that is pajamified, the pajamification of America. Everyone is constantly wearing very, very casual clothes. That's sort of become culturally acceptable. But I think it's a nice time for us to take a step back and think about what industry we're in or where we show up, and what would have been a more traditional dress code, and then work from that. You want to always be projecting, and Kim helped us to understand it is coming from the inside out, but you want to project yourself as the leader in your field, and you want to showcase your expertise, and you want people to listen to what you have to say, not be distracted by something you're wearing or not wearing that's appropriate or inappropriate or just doesn't feel right to the situation. So that's how you can harness your own power to really grab the attention of the audience. And our next slide, same thing. How do you do that? Again, beyond mindset, you have to sort of be looking at Zoom as if you're on television. The Zoom platform and the way that you show up, because of lighting and because it is virtual, it is different. You have to kind of employ some of the tools that television people have, and that is great lighting. So always work up your lighting before you hop on to your calls. The natural lighting in your room should be forward facing. So you can't see them, but I have two nice windows in front of me that let in some natural light. On my desktop, I have a ring light, which I use, which I got very, very inexpensively on Amazon.com, under $50. It's a really great thing to have. I can use it both with my cell phone and on my desk. You want to also make sure you have other lighting to augment, and you just have to play with it. And you just can grab some lamps and just kind of practice with friends and family even. Choose your best colors that relate to your backdrop. So if you cannot utilize a virtual background because your technology on your computer doesn't allow for that, make sure whatever paint or piece of art you're standing or sitting in front of works harmoniously with what you are wearing. So kind of, again, test it out, play it out. You want to dress to be harmonious to your background, not to be clashing with it. I find that prints don't work as well on Zoom, so I tend to stay with solids, and that just works better. It's a little bit less distracting. And again, I talked about the lighting. So, use as much natural lighting as you can, and then kind of play around and practice with friends or family. And then our next slide was originally done as, it was very cute. Someone shared it with me. It was Zoom bingo. So it was in a bingo format. It was very fun, but Kim and I couldn't quite incorporate that into this. So these are the tips for how to Zoom with style. Like, these are the things you want to do. If you can get a great night's sleep and really look refreshed, eating healthy, having the Zoom lighting, as we said, getting up in between your Zooms and going outside, getting a little bit of fresh air, stretching, maybe doing a mindfulness exercise, just really taking great care of yourself so that you can show up in this space with some agency, have a laugh during your day, and just try to incorporate some of these little tips in, always being hydrated, for instance. And we can share these slides if you want them beyond today. The next slide, however, is going to talk about some of the pitfalls of Zoom. And we all have, been like forgetting to mute ourselves, having to ask people to mute. Sometimes people are eating during meetings, and that can feel distracting. So I think if you're having a snack, kind of, being mindful of how that looks to others. One of my most favorite stories that I'm going to share with you about people or pets appearing in your Zoom room. I have a very dear friend, an ex-colleague, and we've been working on a project together, and we were on a Zoom that she was running. So I was a participant. And before she began, she said, I want to let everyone know that a gentleman may walk into the Zoom frame, and he is an older man. He is my dad. He lives with me. He has dementia. I'm taking care of him. And so if he does come into the Zoom space and you see him, just say hello. I'm going to excuse myself for a moment, and I'm going to tuck him away, and I'll be right back. And so she set up an expectation for her audience so that they wouldn't be confused. She wants to not be embarrassed because she's taking care of her dad, and she wants him to have some dignity. So you can get away with anything as long as you can explain it and be authentic about it and share. So pets, children coming into the Zoom room, it's okay as long as you can kind of roll with it, acknowledge it, be kind about it. So, watching your connection, we had a little connection problem before we got on board today. These things happen. This is technology. Things aren't perfect. So you kind of set everything up to avoid the pitfalls, but how you handle them with grace and dignity and getting quickly back on track is what's going to make the difference. And then our next slide was also a fun slide that my coach shared with me. And if we roll to it, it's called The Great Debate. Should you be looking very professional, or should you be looking more cozy? And what I always say to people is you want to appear in your Zoom room in the same fashion that you appear in real life. So if you're in a Zoom room and you don't look like your avatar on LinkedIn or your profile, or you're in the Zoom room and you don't at all resemble your business card that somebody has, it is off-putting. So it is really great to have your professional headshots done, have them looking super professional, but then you need to live up to that in real life. So only go so far with your professional headshot as you can actually deliver on. It's better to be authentic than to have this sort of glamorous headshot that doesn't really truly reflect how you show up every single day. I see we didn't move forward in our presentation. Oh, here we go. So the great debate was the woman in the upper quadrant here. She has like a blonde hair. She was a executive with a firm called Deloitte and Touche, and she was very high up, and that was her professional LinkedIn profile. And when she went into Zoom during pandemic, she decided to be more authentically her, and that is her on the right. So I don't want to be judgmental or say that there's something wrong with that, but it is a very, very different look. And you may not, as the observer, be able to realize it's the same person. And again, my coach Shannon is the woman in the lower quadrant, and on the right, she has her professional headshot, and on the left is how she was showing up in her Zoom space. So it's just something to be mindful of, is to always being presenting a cohesive and recognizable presentation of self. And then our next slide is kind of talking about why any of this matters. And again, you know, Kim set us up really nicely about mindset, but dressing sounds like a really superficial thing, when in actuality, it can be a really powerful and fun tool. And this does not mean that you have to go out and buy yourself a Chanel suit and a Rolex watch and Gucci heeled shoes. You can have style and presence on any budget, any size, any shape, any age, but you have to step into that and own it. And why it really matters is, again, you attract your audience by being confident, and by your being pulled together, you really can own your confidence. You feel differently. You want to grab that audience attention on a screen. I think today we have 25, 30 participants, and normally you would be seeing everyone in that gallery format. So how can you stand out, especially if you're with your team at work and you want to be moving up, you want to be taken seriously, or if you're doing business networking and there's 30 people in a room, how can you capture that one client that might really want to hear what you have to say, but you have to attract them first visually. Meeting, obviously, your professional goals, your personal goals, business goals. You know, this is why it matters. It's one tool in a toolbox of getting you to your future goals. And I think it also allows us to take back some control in a time and space where we've all felt very out of control. So it's a form of self-manifestation, and it can be fun and creative. And simply put, it's your personal brand. Kim and I will often marvel at some of our younger cohort, specifically in Women's Business League, wonderful young women building their brands, building up their small companies, and really spending an enormous amount of time using the social media tools, TikTok and Instagram and stories and reels. And that's one tool, but sometimes we spend a lot of time there and then we forget that we are actually the brand. We are the person behind the brand. So we need to spend as much time on ourselves as we're spending on some of the social media that we all can, you know, get caught up in. And our last slide gives you an opportunity to jot down our information if you would like to reach out and get the copy of our content today. Every woman that I dress as an individual. So I do not have the 5 top outfits for professional women, because what might work for me won't work for Kim, wouldn't work for Brooke, who's manning our screen today. Thank you, Brooke. So it's a very individualized service, and it's a very personalized service. And again, we can do it with any woman, any age, any size, any budget, any shape, but it's a little bit of soul searching to bring forward your confident self. And I just help you to adorn that person. So Kim and I are really pleased to have hopefully come in under 30 minutes with a lot of points to think about and ways to start thinking about using professional and personal image to really enhance anything that you want to achieve in your life and business.
Lisa, we had one question from Facebook, which I answered, but I'd love to hear what you have to say about
Okay,
it.
great.
It was about the background. And so Linda from Facebook asked, is it best to look like you are in an office background or today, can you just go with a plain background for work?
So I believe you want to speak to what you do for a living. So if this woman is a banker, then she wouldn't want to select my background as pretty as it is. And it's neutral. You don't want your logo of your bank out there, and you don't want to be dressing in your bank logo colors, but you want something that might evoke confidence that you can handle their money. So, play around with some backgrounds that look like not an old stodgy library or a vault, but something that makes the person unconsciously say, that woman is going to handle my money safely. That's the kind of sort of psychology behind picking your outfits and picking your backgrounds.
Absolutely. And Naomi said she thinks it's amazing, our virtual community globally that can be made, and that we are truly united in our humanity at this time.
Oh, I love
yeah,
that.
isn't that lovely? Yes.
And a part of what Kim and I are trying to say is you want to connect authentically with people. And the best way you can do that is to feel your most confident in your best. And sometimes the outer casing, what we choose to put ourselves in, gives us that lift on those days that you really feel soured. We all have those days. These have been hard times. So dressing can be a way to perk yourself up, or, just get a new lipstick color for $10 at CVS, or in Boston, we have CVS. I don't know what we have across the nation. Buy a red lipstick, treat yourself to something that's going to give you that energy, that spark. I love what she said.
Me too. We sometimes lament on what's been taken from us. And if we can look to see what has been given to us, it can also change that perspective.
And, I will say women have pushed back on me a little bit because, again, this feels very scary. I have to create a wardrobe. It feels bigger than what it is. And I've said to them, for all the many, many, many hundreds of thousands of people who have perished in this, let's live life. Let's have a resurgence. Let's have a roaring 20s. Let's get out there and wear the red lipstick in honor of everyone that can't do that. Let's live a little.
Oh, you got one question there. Is a suit always necessary on an interview call?
Great question, Lisa.
I'm hesitating because clearly I'm in my 50s, as you can see, and I do like that look. I don't think it needs to be tight and buttoned up and uncomfortable. I think it can be softer, more feminine, but I do like that you command something of seriousness when you have that suit on. And again, I think we need to move away from the gendered male profile suit that's very square, that's very buttoned up, into a more softer, there are some brands out there that are selling suiting that's softer and that's more feminine, and then we can make it a little bit more ourselves. But I do like that for an interview. That's just my call. What do you think, Kim?
I think you want to dress to the position that you are interviewing for. And it's like I said, you want to think the above. You don't want to think about just the position you have, but you want to make that impression. And, if you're going to be a dog walker or a dog care person and you show up in a suit, they might think, oh, well, this person is going to want to get their hands dirty. So you're going to make that impression. But if you're, like to Lisa's point about the banker, if you're interviewing to be a banker in that industry, you want to convey that trust. And all of that said, I think you also should put your personality into it, because, if you pretend to be somebody you're not, when you show up and dig in and start to work and things, get busy and life happens, they're going to be like, well, who is this person? So I would be true to yourself, and also what's the image you want to create. And all right, so what was the follow-up question? Meryl asked that question. Thank you, Judy. And Lisa, any brand, I'm going to throw that one over there, Lisa, any brand names you can suggest for suits, right? Is that what you're looking for, Meryl, suits?
So
Yes.
I like to combine pieces from a brand like like an Eileen Fisher, which is what I happen to be wearing today because it's a little softer. They're knits. So you can create a suited look, but you can actually walk in it. You're comfortable. The fabric is beautiful. And we can find other brands along that line. That is the brand that comes to my mind because I worked with it for so many years and because it has size inclusivity and it's very neutral. So if you have wearable art, because there's not a lot of print in that particular brand, you can wear a beautiful brooch. Maybe you have a scarf that was done by an artist. And you want to bring that color in. So you have a nice clean palette to work from. But that depends on, what's your age. Most younger women are going to go for J. Crew, which is a great product. We used to have Brooks Brothers. I'm very saddened to hear that Brooks Brothers is on the rails right now. But, for a more traditional woman, such as an accountant, a CPA, a lawyer, you could go to the Brooks Brothers women's end. So it depends on what my client needs, what her budget is, what her shape is, what she wants to create. We can get that softer suit profile. I'm trying to get out of women looking like men, not because they want to, but because that's all the industry was offering. That's all the fashion, well, not fashion, the big box retail stores were offering. So there are brands out there that are softer, and just finding that knit that still gives you that structure, but with more softness and more of an ode to our femininity and our women.
Awesome. And Melinda is asking to all of that, are there core pieces that we should have in our wardrobe?
So
Welcome,
this
Carol.
is like so funny, and Kim is going to laugh. So many of my coaches ask me this question: why can't you put an infographic together and throw it on Instagram that shows the 5 key pieces? Well, because depending on your shape, a normal key piece would be the pencil skirt. Okay, I'm a size 16. I can't wear a pencil skirt. So for me, I need a skirt that has more flow. So I would say in general, a professional skirt that you could wear in your office setting, but then you could go out to dinner in it. God forbid you had to go to something like a memorial service. You could wear it with a different top. So I'm going to say a skirt, but the manifestation of that skirt, depending on your age, your stage in life, your size, your shape, would be different. But they want to slap on like pencil skirt. Everybody has to have one. But a good strong skirt, a good strong, what I would call the old fashioned trouser, a full length pant that could be worn dressy or not so dressy with a beautiful sweater or with a little jacket. So a pant that really works. And again, the manifestation of that's going to be different for every body type, but not skinny jeans. Leggings are not pants, ladies. Here's my Boston accent coming out. Leggings are not pants for the office. So finding that really great pant option that can work for you, that you can wear multiple days in the week and no one's going to know it. A great dress. And again, that's going to be different. Some people it will be a wrap dress. Some people it will be just the column. But a great dress, you can do a lot with that. I like the pieces that you can make more than one outfit with. That's the curated closet concept that I try to move my clients toward. It's very much like European women, how they dress. They own fewer things, better quality. They take care of them better. And then they use accessories to make it more interesting.
Awesome. Did that help, Melinda? Yes. Awesome.
And my podcast talks a lot about this. So, it's on all platforms if you want to listen. It's called The Wardrobe Muse. So it's Apple and Google and Spotify. And you can learn a little bit more. You can always reach out on Instagram or I have a very long email. And I'm happy to answer questions that might come up for you after today when you're actually now going in and looking at your closet or trying to figure out what ring light you should use.
You're welcome, Michelle. Thank you, everyone.
Yes.
Well, Kim and I are so grateful. We love working together, and anytime we have an opportunity to work together, we're very happy. Thank you so much.